you look back in hindsight, everything is 2020. In hindsight, we make mistakes, we're learning from it in hindsight.
Hey, welcome to Hindsight the Podcast. I'm Lee Jones, your host. What if the adventure you need to conquer isn't a cross-country ride or a new book, but the voice in your head telling you that you're not enough? How do we confront the unseen battles of imposter syndrome that many of us face every single day? Now, look, I got my girl here, Teri M. Brown. She's an award-winning author, podcast host, and inspirational speaker who turned her own personal battles and stories into powerful words of transformation. She has overcome the emotional scars of an abusive marriage, a lifelong struggle with self-doubt, and the challenge of carving out her own voice in a crowded literary world. Good morning, Teri. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, Lee. It's wonderful to be here. I'm so excited.
Man, I tell you what, imposter syndrome is something that more of us are plagued with than you would think. Right?
I actually had a conversation with someone not too long ago who tried to say, oh, there's really no such thing as imposter syndrome. And I'm like, call it what you will then. But there is that feeling. I mean, I've had my whole life where I would think, people would say something positive and my mind would say, yeah, but if you knew the whole story.
Yeah.
You know, and that's been true from the time I was a little girl. And I think that everyone struggles with it at some point where they're like, yeah, but if you knew everything, then you wouldn't say that about me. And the truth is no, they probably would still say that about you.
That's the
but
thing.
It's all in us that I'm just not good enough, right? I'm not really what they think that I am.
Yeah.
And it's from your own head problem. Yeah.
It's our own head problem. We're head cases. Absolutely. I 100% agree. I like to talk about trying to get control of the stories that you tell yourself, right? Because you're telling the story. So tell better stories, but we'll talk about that later. So, but from your experiences, and we talked a little bit about them I talked a little bit about them in the intro. How would you define what imposter syndrome is?
Imposter syndrome to me is the little voice in your head that's telling you you're not good enough, and it's not anyone else. These aren't other people's words. Although your words may be fueled by words you've heard other people say, the imposter syndrome is not coming from outside. It's definitely an inside thing, because I know people who've been told, oh, good, but they believe that they're great. And their belief is what offsets anything else that they hear. I also know people who've been told they're great, but they don't believe it. And they go around not believing they're great because it's an inside job. So to me, imposter syndrome is definitely your internal thoughts telling you you're not good enough, big enough, bad enough, bold enough, whatever enough. You're just not enough.
Yeah. I know I still battle with it. And I say battle because it kind of is a fight. It's not a war. It's not a war, but it's a battle, right? And and sometimes I'll say things, even to podcast guests, and they'll come back and be like, "Why are you like harboring on that? You're good. You're doing this. This is amazing." You know what I mean? And I'm not saying the podcast, but just anything, right?
Anything. Well, the other day I was on a podcast and I said expert, and I put little quotes with my fingers.
Yeah.
Why did I do that? That's an imposter syndrome thing. That's when you're trying to say, hey, so, I'm an inspirational speaker and I say that I'm an expert, right? Yeah. And the truth is that when it comes to inspirational things that I've experienced, I am an expert. I lived it. Yeah. I'm the only one that can talk about my experiences. Right? And then I've talked with authors too, and I do some marketing seminars for local authors. One of the first things I tell them is you've got to be able to say, hi, I'm Teri M. Brown. I'm an excellent author and I wrote an excellent book. And if you can't say that, your marketing's going to fail. Well, the authors all say, oh, let's say that. And it's like, but you have to. And if you can't say it, one of two things is going on. You've not written an excellent book, in which case stop trying to market it, right? Yeah. You have imposter syndrome and you need to beat it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Wow. I like talking about it because it's those little things that you just like. I don't even know how it gets programmed in you.
I'm
right?
not sure either. Sometimes I used to think it was more of a female issue because often women are told young, be quiet, reserved, be demure. You don't want anyone to, you don't want to talk about yourself. You don't want to brag. But I have found more and more that men feel it too. So I don't know if it's programmed into us or if it's just a human thing, a human experience that we all have of as good as the next guy.
Yeah.
I
Competition.
think, aren't we all taught not to brag?
That's another thing. Be humble.
Be humble. Be humble. Well, then how do you be humble and say I'm an expert? Because the word expert immediately says you're not humble.
Yeah.
Except that you can be a humble expert. You can be. Right? Right? One of the people that I was doing this marketing with said, well, I mean, isn't that bragging? Like, doesn't that sound horrible? And I said, well, let's take it back and let's assume that you have clogged toilet and you call a plumber and the plumber comes in and he says to you, I'm an excellent plumber. I can take care of that clog. Do you think he's a braggart or are you just really glad that you got a good plumber?
I'm glad that I got a good plumber that's confident in his abilities. Yeah.
Exactly. So why can't we do the same thing with our art?
Yeah.
Why or whatever it is that we're doing in life? Why can't we just say we're good at it? And you should be glad that you're dealing with someone who's good at what they are doing. You should just be able to say it. And yet there's so many of us who try to hide behind the, well, I'm sort of an author that kind of writes books. Right?
Yeah. You punching me in the gut right now. I can tell you that, Teri. Because I still fight. Like I'll be in meetings and I'll say something and I'll be like, man, I wonder what they thought of that. Why am I asking that question? I don't need to be in this room, with these important, special people. Who am I to be here?
Right. Right. And who are you to be there, Lee? You are Lee.
Yeah.
And you have insights that other people don't have.
That's
what
the
you
message.
can offer is different. Other people can offer. And it doesn't matter how much experience you have. It just matters, do you have an experience? And are you willing to share and be part of the conversation that's going on? And if the answer is yes, then you have every right to be there and every right to speak.
Yeah. And I say it's a battle because I still have thoughts. Right. But the key to me, from my perspective, is to understand that those thoughts are there and you need to kind of reconstruct or reframe, re-narrate, exactly, whatever it is.
Put them away. Sometimes it's like, okay, look, I'm going to put that away. I'm going to ignore it.
Yeah.
And then when I get home, I can pull it back out and we can look at it. But right now, I'm not going to look at it because I'm in the middle of this and I need to be, here I am. Right?
Absolutely. People said it earlier. Pay attention to what your mind is telling you, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good. If you mastered it and you know that you write your own story in your own mind, then you're in a good position. But if you haven't figured that out yet, you're acting off of some flawed data. So,
and those stories that you tell yourself, so my husband and I rode across the United States on a tandem bicycle. 3,102
3,000.
miles.
Yeah.
So long ride. Prior to that ride, I had lived in a 14-year emotionally abusive relationship. So before getting to know my husband that I went on this trip with, I had lived in that relationship and I came out of it damaged. You don't live in a relationship like that without being damaged. And stories that I was telling myself are, you're 55 years old and life is over.
Yeah.
There will be nothing else. You will never achieve anything else. You might as well just plan on being a grandma. You can enjoy the grandkids, live through them, because nothing as good is going to come your way. You're not capable. You're no good. That was my story. Yeah. Then I went on this ride. Along the way, I was able to take all of those stories and say, well, obviously I can achieve things. Look at me. I'm on a tandem bicycle riding across the United States.
Yeah. That's dope.
At the very end of that ride. So you have to remember too, when I started this idea that I was going to ride across the United States with my husband, Bruce, I had not been on a bicycle in 40 years. So this was not Teri doing Teri. This was way outside my comfort zone.
Yeah.
As we pulled into Washington, D.C., which is where we ended the ride, my husband said, do you see that flag? And I said, yes. He said, that's the memorial we're stopping at. Well, I started to laugh and cry like I was just a big mess. And I thought, gosh, I made it across the United States on a tandem bicycle.
Yeah.
Like, I can do anything I put my mind to. It's not a matter of, can I do it? But it's, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
And I wanted to be an author. And 14 months later, my first novel came out. So I think that the stories that we tell ourselves can limit us, because that book that came out had been written. I just wasn't showing it to anyone because I didn't believe I was really an author. I didn't believe I was capable. I didn't believe anyone would want to read it. And in the end, it won 12 awards as a debut novel. And so, yes, you can, but it's the stories in your head. Because if I had continued listening to those original stories of, I can't, my life is over, I'll never achieve anything else, have no worth, then I would be sitting here today having no worth, having not achieved anything, because I would have never tried.
Right. That's powerful. That's powerful. I just talked to a young gentleman just a little bit ago, and I was telling him about, he asked me what was an important lesson that I like to tell my audience about something that I learned in the Army. And the one thing I told him was, just remember that when you're going through bad things, or when you're going through bad thoughts, or whatever it is, remember it's just a moment in time.
Yeah.
And don't live there. It's just a moment in time.
Tell people that the worst things that ever happened to you don't have to define you.
Yeah.
They might have shaped you. They might have helped you grow stronger or wiser. Like, look good that it did to you, for you. But it doesn't have to define you. I lived in an abusive relationship, but I don't feel like abused. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't define myself as a former abused spouse. Like, that's not how I define myself. Did it happen? Yes, it did. Did it shape things? Yes, it did. Are there things about that I regret? Well, sure there are, but it doesn't define who I am as a person today. It's just a piece of what shaped who I am now.
Yeah. Hey, Teri, I tell you what, you was talking about your 3,000-mile bike ride across the country, and I'm looking over here at this recumbent bike, and I can barely do 8 minutes on that thing because my mind is like, oh, my legs are burning. Right. Oh, let's get up and get something to eat. Oh, let's just tell these stories. And so I got to fight through it. That's another battle, right?
Well, and
pay attention to your mind.
I tell people all the time, because I heard so many people say, oh my gosh, I could never do that. I could never ride across the United States.
Yeah.
If I can do it, one can do it. Okay. When I made this decision, I was 70 pounds overweight. I was 55 years old. I hadn't been on a bicycle in 40 years. Every reason for failure was there.
Yeah.
The difference is I wanted it. Wanted it. I wanted to do this. Thought I needed to prove to the world that I still had value. Turns out I needed to prove that to me, but wanted it. And because I wanted it, things should have stopped me, did not. Now, if you don't want something, anything can stop you. My shoes feel too tight. I'm hungry. I didn't sleep well. The sun rose this morning. I mean, literally anything can make you say, I'm done, right? But if you want it, find a way around all the obstacles.
You know what, Teri? You just gave me some inspiration. And, I was been in the Army, so I know this. But I'm older now. And, when I got out, I stopped doing a lot of that stuff. And I just started getting back into the fitness thing, just recently. So the one thing that I do when I get on that recumbent bike, I just put it on manual. Like, just ride until you're tired. And that's probably, I need to be like, I want to do 20 minutes. I want to ride it for the length of this show. I need to fully define what it is that I'm trying to achieve so that all of these things that are really trying to pull me away from that achievement can
you
just
can
be
put them
pushed
aside. And
you
can say, yes, I am hungry and I do want to go get food, and I'll do that in 7.5 minutes when I'm done riding.
There it is. I love it.
Because you'll know. Well, it's interesting because one of the rules, so I wrote a book, 10 Little Rules for a Double-Butted Adventure. It's lessons that I learned while riding across the United States. And one of them is define your success. Because if you don't know what success is, how do you know if you've achieved it? right? And then define it in a way that will work for you. So originally, our success was going to be riding every single mile from the coast of Oregon to Washington, D.C. Well, as it turns out, you can't do that. Sometimes you have to push the bike, right? Sometimes you have to push. The hill is too high. You cannot. Sometimes the road is torn up with 10 miles of road construction that there's no way to navigate this bicycle through. Sometimes there's a big storm coming and you're not going to have enough time to get to where you need to go. And you're going to need someone who can throw you into the back of their pickup and get you to where you need to be so that you're not out in the middle of this horrible storm. Well, if we had kept our success as ride every mile, we would have ridden 3,102 miles and felt unsuccessful.
Yeah.
Instead, we said our goal is to make it from the West Coast to Washington, D.C., and ride as many of those miles as possible.
And
so we did that. And when we were done, we were very successful. Look, we rode across the United States. Did we ride we rode 3,102 miles. And there were probably about another 50 miles that we could have ridden, but we really couldn't.
That is an amazing life example. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Because, about a year ago, and this is a year ago, not like 10, 15 years ago, a year ago, someone asked me, hey, Lee, what does success look like to you? I was like, shit, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. What does success look like? You just do things. You know what I mean? You do things and you hope it turns out okay.
Or you have this success defined in such a way that the average person can't ever meet it. And so you always feel unsuccessful. Like as an author, I mean, sure, wouldn't success be that every single person in the United States knew my name because I was that author? But if I'm waiting for that, then that is success in the meantime. Right? Like, does that mean I'm unsuccessful now? And I feel very successful. I've written 3 novels. I've written my memoir. I've written a children's book. I've done all that. In the last 3 years, they've all come out. It feels pretty successful to me. Now, am I a household name? No. Okay, so am I successful? It depends how you're defining success.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do the same thing. For instance, I go to some of these craft fairs and local craft fairs, and you have your booth with your books and you're just trying to drum up business and get people to know who you are. There are people that I know at the craft fairs that say, well, if I don't sell 75 books, it isn't even worth me being here. Well, I have yet to sell 75 books at a craft fair. Like that just is, if I've sold 30, I feel like, whoa, that was an incredible day. How do I define success? Did I meet anyone that had not heard of me? And did we have a good conversation? Did any one person sign up for my newsletter? Did any one person say to me something like, ooh, I have a book club. This might make a good book for my book club. Do you see? All of that makes then sitting at a craft fair, I was successful. Because certainly one of those things has happened.
Yeah.
Met one person. I had one person sign up. I had one, you know what I mean? You have.
And absolutely.
Me, then I walk away going, wow, that was a really good day. And the person next to me walks away going, that was the most unsuccessful book fair that I've ever been to. Right? So how do you define it? It makes a big difference.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. Hey, so I wasn't going to say most people, but I don't know most people. So I'll assume that imposter syndrome only, I used to think this only affects like super high achieving professionals or celebrities, right? But you've written about how it affects so many of us.
Yeah.
What was the moment you realized that imposter syndrome was holding you back in ways you didn't even understand?
I don't know that there was ever a moment, and I think it still happens to me, where I'll go to do something and I'll realize, Teri, what are you doing? For instance, the book, 10 Little Rules for Double-Butted Adventure. I had it written. I was having trouble finding a publisher. I met a publisher. We were chatting. I realized that my book would be a good fit. Like it really fit the kinds of things they were putting out there. They're called 10 Little Rules. And my book at the time were life lessons learned. But, it was, it took me 6 months to let them know that I had something written because I kept thinking, oh, if they wanted me, they'd ask. She knows that I went on this ride. And if she wanted something from me, she'd ask. And then I finally realized, what are you doing? It isn't published now. And if she says no, it's still not published. Nothing has changed. Right?
Oh, I love that.
But if she says yes, you now have a publisher for your book. So I just kind of like held my breath and I reached out and I were friendly acquaintances. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I could reach out and just send her a quick email. We weren't like best buds, but and so I just reached out and said, hey, Carol, thought you might want to know that I've already written a manuscript of some lessons that I learned. And I'm just wondering if you think this might be a fit. Attaching the sample and let me know. Teri. And I sent it off and I just, oh, this is horrible, right?
Yeah.
30 minutes later, she sends me back and she says, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Let's talk.
Yeah. Ain't that something?
Imposter syndrome, 6 months.
Yeah.
And it happens over and over. And I think that I've learned my lesson. And then all of a sudden I see it happening again.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lesson that you just have to keep learning over and over and over and over and over. And each time you make a step forward, now it happens again, right? Because now you're in a new place.
Absolutely.
Old place you're finally comfortable with. And I can say, most of the time now, I can say, hey, I'm a good author. You should read my books. Right? But I'm wanting to break into the inspirational speaking gig. That's where I say, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And let's say that I finally break into that and that feels good. The next thing I try to do will be the next thing that I say, well, I don't really know if I know. That's just, I think it's just human nature.
Constant battle.
Yeah. And you just have to keep reminding yourself over and over and over. And the only way that I know how to get over imposter syndrome is to essentially, take a deep breath and do it anyway. Just do it.
Yeah.
I don't know any other way around it. Like, I don't know how to get around it. You just have to kind of go through it. You just have to.
That's it. I think the biggest thing is you need to recognize that it's happening. Right.
And then just ignore it.
And then do it.
Yeah.
I love that example that when I did this because I tell a lot of people, look, you already have the no.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You have the no. If you don't put yourself out there, the no is there. Yeah. And I tell people, I'm shy. And I don't think that necessarily that I'm shy as much as I think it's more imposter syndrome. I think I want to avoid the definitive no.
Yes. Because if it's an imaginary no, well, I didn't get the book deal because I never turned my book in. That's easier to deal with than I turned my book in and they rejected me. Right?
I know.
But the truth is, you got
the same. You still got the same result. Right. No, exactly. Right. And why not take a chance?
You never have a chance for a yes if you don't put yourself out there. You just don't have the chance for the yes. And so that's the thing I have to always remind myself. Teri, you can't get a yes if you don't put it out there. And so it's just new. I think anytime you do something new, something big, something a little outside of whatever box you've kind of put yourself in, you're now a podcast host. You probably feel pretty comfortable with that. You can ask people to be on your show. It doesn't really, but if you tried something else, all of a sudden you have the, oh gosh, am I good enough to do that? Yeah. Right. And I just think this is what we do to ourselves.
Yeah, I'm a person who likes to be behind the scenes. So when I first started doing podcasts, it was just an audio podcast.
Right.
And I wanted to do a video podcast, but it took months. It took months. Well, what equipment? Am I good enough? How do I stay on camera?
What if I don't look
keep
right?
Eye contact. What if I don't look right? Hey, you're not that attractive, Lee. Let's, people are going to turn, anything will come to your head,
What happens to me, I also do a podcast. So I with other authors, and I notice myself. So I'll look and I'll think, oh, are you squint? I do. I have the tendency to squint. I do this a lot, and it's
you see me doing it too, and my eyes get big.
Yeah. And I have to keep reminding myself, stay in this little frame.
Yeah. Yeah,
eyes open.
I do this. I do the same thing. I'm so
I'm
critiqued.
saying liking them, and so I do sometimes then feel like an imposter. But the truth is that when people listen to your podcast, listen to my podcast, they're listening to not the specifics like that.
Exactly.
They're listening to, did you bring on a guest that then touched me in some way, whatever way you're trying to touch people? And if the answer to that is yes, they will kind of overlook some of this, right? They're not going to pay too much attention to the fact that we got too close to the camera, or that I squinted, or that I rubbed my, like right now I have a tear running out of this eye, so I'm going to go ahead and grab it. But those kinds of things people don't really pay attention to, because that's not why they're listening to the podcast. They're not listening to the podcast to get perfection. They're listening to the podcast because you had on a guest that they wanted to hear. They wanted to hear whatever that guest had to say. So if we can kind of remember that we don't have to be perfect, I think that might also help with the imposter syndrome. It isn't about perfection. It's about, are you doing it?
Yeah. Imposter syndrome. All right. I love it, man, because it's really a problem. It's really a problem for you, for me, for anyone who's watching, because it takes away opportunities. It takes away achieving success. Right. It just takes away from it because you're so afraid of doing the wrong thing, or you're afraid
to step outside of that box.
Yeah.
We've all limit ourselves, and it's so comfortable. Limits are so comfortable.
Yeah.
Well, I can't do that. Stay right here in my little box.
Yeah.
The truth is that joy in life is really outside of that little box that you've put yourself in. Most of the joy happens when you are willing to step outside. And that's what I tell people my book is about, is like, it's not really about riding across the United States on a tandem bicycle. I mean, sure, I tell my stories there, but what it's really about is getting outside of yourself. Like how to live a life in which you can be a little more adventurous, and whatever that looks like to you. And that could be, I've always wanted to take a watercolor class and I'm afraid. Or I don't know what I'm going to do when my kids move out. The empty nest syndrome. Oh my gosh, now what? It could be, I've always wanted to live in a different location and I'm a little afraid to move because what if I don't make friends? It can be anything. Or it can be something like riding a tandem bicycle across the United States. But whatever it is, these are things to help you kind of remember that it's okay to be a little bolder. It's okay to step outside of the lines that we've drawn.
Yeah. The military helped me out. It made me step out. Like they push you out the lines, right?
Right.
And one of the things that I do appreciate is perspective, because you mentioned a couple times how you're comfortable in that box.
Yeah.
And one of the boxes, like where you live at,
right.
Your perspective, things, you're comfortable in your environment because you believe you understand how it works, and having the opportunity to go to different countries, right? And from a military perspective, and meet different men and women from other armies, right? Because I did a peacekeeping mission in Bosnia, and just and I did a joint training. I was a part of a joint training in Japan, and you have this perception. I had this perception of people in different countries as being really different, until I was there. And I didn't understand. I don't know how to speak Japanese. And a lot of the Japanese soldiers didn't speak English, but we were able to, after we did our training, we had this party, we had interpreters there. And I realized, damn, they're just like us.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that we realize is we have this idea that people are so radically different somehow.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, most people want the same kinds of things, right? We want happiness. We want health. We want a roof over our heads. We want the ability to be able to live a decent life. We want family. We want love. And that just kind of transcends all the other things. Whether you're an inner city person or a rural person, or whether you're, live in the United States or you live in a different country, whether you were brought up with, both parents in the home or only one, those things, sure, they affect you, but they don't change the basic humanness of all of us. Right?
And different levels of success doesn't change that either.
Doesn't change it either.
So to your point earlier, you're like, I'm not a household name or whatever, or I want to be this maybe you didn't say international. I want to be this international motivational speaker. Right. And some people have achieved that, right? And you're looking to achieve that. But when you meet certain people, or when you really look at the core of this person,
it's the same.
Best believe they have imposter syndrome.
Yes.
They go through problems like you and I do, right?
And they also go grocery shopping, and
all of that.
They go to bed at night, and once they go to bed, they think, shoot, I should have gone to the bathroom first, and they get back up. I mean, there isn't anything. And I've even noticed that. This is funny. I live in a little community. My first book came out. A neighbor came over. Now, this is a neighbor that I had known for over a year. She'd been to my home for a Christmas gathering. My husband had helped her fix the brakes on her bicycle. So, I mean, she'd been around. She came over to the house and is standing on the front porch, kind of like dancing side to side. And she said, I understand you've written a book. And I said, oh, yeah, Marie, I did. And she said, do you have a copy that I could purchase? I said, absolutely. Come on in. And then I said, do you want me to sign it? And she was like, would you? Right? So I signed it, and then she holds it and she says, never had a book signed by an author before. And it's like, Marie, I'm still the same woman. Like, I just went to Food Lion. Like, I was just, do you understand that nothing has changed? But people do, and we do that. I do that to other people, where I think, they won the such and so award. Wow. I don't belong in the same room with them. That's crazy. Yeah. Why don't I belong in the same room with them, right? And so I think we all do it on whatever level that is.
Yeah. And I tell you what, in going and fighting and battling with your imposter syndrome, and going ahead and doing things anyway, and writing that book, and having, signing that for your neighbor. What's her name? Marie, yeah. Marie, like, that's my mom's name is Marie as well. That's inspiration. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You've just inspired her. Right. She may have a book in her now.
Right. Or if it's not a book, maybe it's something else. Maybe she looked at me and said, she's a neighbor, and she was just, just like me yesterday, and now she's doing something bigger, and there's this thing I've been wanting to do.
Good point.
Right?
Good point.
So it doesn't even have to be a book. It can just be, my neighbor is trying to achieve things, and you know what? I've got this thing I've always wanted to do.
Yeah. Maybe
I can do it. Teri did it. Maybe I could do it.
Inspiration.
And I think it's one of the reasons I love getting out and chatting with people. Is people have inspired me. And I definitely hope that I can inspire other people. And I hope people continue to inspire me. Like the only way we get better is to keep pushing forward. And one of the ways that happens is by seeing other people and saying, ooh, I could do that.
Yeah. Doesn't it feel good though when you touch somebody?
Yeah.
I mean, that makes me feel good. Like, I was just thinking of some things, and I actually started tearing up inside. So no tears are coming out, but it feels good when someone just says, hey, I really appreciate you, taking the time to do whatever it was. Right. Because they've looking at you.
I've talked quite a bit about being abused and being in this abusive relationship.
Yeah.
And I've heard from women who are either in an abusive relationship or have recently gotten out of an abusive relationship. And I tell people all the time, when you get out of an abusive relationship, that is just like step one. Then there is all the healing that has to be done before you even feel human again, before you even feel like you deserve to be on this planet. It's hard. It's hard work. And I've had women come to me and say, oh, wow, to hear you say that. To hear you say that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And I think whatever people are going through, whatever it is, abuse, sadness, name a bazillion things that can happen to humans that make us feel like we've just been, beat up.
Yeah.
It's light on the other side of that. In the moment, you're right. It's dark and it's horrible and it's stormy and it's scary and it's awful. But it isn't permanent, and there's light on the other side of that. And just keep heading for that spot. There's light, and once you get there, there are usually people on the other side who are willing to offer you a hand, and insights, and inspiration and other things, because you're not the first person that has experienced it, and you're not going to be the last person.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I like it. All right. I'm going to go back a little bit.
Okay.
It's hindsight. So let me go back. What was like your aha moment while riding the tandem bicycle across the United States?
I think when we made it over the Rockies was one of the moments. And of course, at the very end, which I told you oh my gosh,
you told
I
me
made it
that
the whole way, right? But going over the Rockies, that had been like, I was terrified. I knew we'd never make it. I wasn't going to make it. How am I going to make it over the Rocky Mountains on a tandem bicycle? We had a trailer that was hauling all of our camping gear. I mean, we looked like a small circus. And so here we are trying to go over the freaking Rocky Mountains.
That's crazy.
And I was just, we made it. Yeah. And we get to the top and I think, I just made it over the Rocky Mountains. Like, you do start to recognize, well, look at what I just did. And then small little moments. You know, I told you I'd been in an abusive relationship and it made me feel very uncomfortable approaching people, particularly men, but people in general. I was afraid to look stupid. I was afraid I'd say the wrong thing. I was just very intimidated. And along the way, I went from not being able to approach people to going up to brand new people, saying hello, asking for things that I needed from strangers.
Yeah.
Whereas I couldn't even, on the first 3 or 4 days, my husband is the one that had to go and check and see if there was a room for us that night, because I couldn't even go into a hotel or a campground and ask if they had space.
Right.
I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And look at me now.
Yeah.
Now I want to be an inspirational speaker and talk to people, and it's little things over time that I started realizing, oh, look, I can do this. I can walk in and I can ask a question. I can, and it doesn't matter if the person doesn't know, or even if they roll their eyes at me, who cares? You know? And so I don't know, you just start to, I think for me, it was just doing something that was really outside of my abilities. You know, riding a tandem bicycle was, but it was way beyond normal. I am not an athletic woman. I've never been on sports teams. I was always the last kid picked, you know, that kind of thing. So to do something big and bold and athletic like this was well outside of me. And doing that, I started to realize, look at me.
Yeah.
I am doing it. I am doing it. It's not that I can't do it. I am doing it. So what else does that mean? You know, what other limiting beliefs do I have?
I remember the first time we had to do an extended run. I was in the military and I was in Hawaii. And they have I forgot what day it was, but it's some day where like we would go out into the community and we had to go on this 8-mile run. I had never done an 8-mile run. Right. And so I was kind of hesitant. Not hesitant because I couldn't say no. Right.
Yeah. But you were concerned.
But I was concerned, like, because I didn't want to go out in community and like, look at this bum. This is our army. Yeah. These are the guys that are here to protect us, right?
Make it, right.
Man, but when I went out in all of the practice, you know, we may have been doing 4 miles, 5-mile runs, 2-mile, 1-mile runs fast, but all of that practice, it culminated into what I needed to achieve it. And when I was out there running, I started running. We get to the 4-mile, like that was probably a 5-mile. That was probably the max that I've done. And I was like, you know what? I still feel amazing. You know what I mean?
I can still do this, right?
Yeah, and now my chest is out a little further, and I'm, you know, singing cadence loud, and you know, feeding off of the energy because there's a lot of people out there watching, and I think that's probably the other secret to me not wanting to fall out.
Right.
But the thing is, it's like the Army put me in that situation, and I had to, you know, do it. But there are a lot of things that we will not go out of our comfort. I know I can run 4 miles, and that's all I'm going to do. And you never try to run 4.5. You never try to run 5.
Right?
Yeah,
you don't even try the extra quarter mile because, you know, I'm good here.
Yeah. And then you turn around and you ride a bike and you go over the Rocky Mountain. I mean, it's just crazy. Like, it's so many things that you can do, but we limit ourselves daily.
I tell people that, you know, a lot of people say, oh, you really changed on that trip. I didn't. I discovered myself again.
Mm.
I think we all have what we need inside of us. You've already got it. It's there. Now, is it buried? Did life kind of bury it underneath all kinds of stuff that you've experienced? Sure. It's there. Of course. And so for me, I changed only in that I rediscovered pieces of me that I had buried long, long ago, and decided that this really wasn't who I was, and I just had it shoved way down under there. But the experience that I had brought it back out. I was able to see it again, and I realized I'm capable.
Yeah.
Life isn't over. I have a lot of things I want to achieve. Look at all these dreams that I have. Why am I thinking that my life is over? And so I think that all of us really have inside of us what we need. Now, if you can't find it, that's where we have helpers. So family, friends, pastors, teachers, counselors help you discover again those things that we all have. Able to do it. I was able to dig deep and do things that I couldn't do, except that I could do them. But I believed I couldn't do it. And yet there I was doing it. And you just kept digging. I would dig deep, and all of a sudden it was there. I was like, would you look at that? I really can do this. And mind thing. It's definitely a mind thing, because our bodies will stop long before our minds will let us. Your body says, "Ooh, I'm tired. I'm getting off this bike." Right? And your mind says, "No, you're not."
Yeah.
So it's a mind over matter thing, which is why I think that sometimes just doing it is the answer. Just go do it.
Oh man, you got so many memories. You got me going through so many memories of things where can I give you a quick example?
Absolutely.
This was training in Hawaii, and we had to do a litter carry. Now, for me, training was training, and I never really, unless I immerse myself and allow my mind to believe and to know that this could actually happen, and that's why we're training. So we did litter carries, and that's when, say, someone gets injured, and you got to hurry up and carry them to the helicopter so they can get treatment, right? So we were doing it. It's Hawaii. They got hills, and we're running. And let me be transparent. I was in a light infantry unit, but I was the supply guy, right? So I'm the supply sergeant in this light infantry unit. So I got all these studs, Ranger tabs, and all this stuff, and I gotta be with them, right? Because. So we're running, and I am smoked. I'm hurting. My mind wants to give up. I mean, my body wants to give up.
Right.
Because my mind is telling you can't go any further. And I probably had that distressed look on my face, right? And I could see the first sergeant. He was like, "All right, Sergeant Jones, don't you drop that litter. Keep going, right?" And we keep going, probably about another half a mile, 3/4 of a mile. And they're like, "All right, we're at the helicopter, put it down." And we're all drenched. They're probably not. I'm saying we're all, because I was.
Yeah, right. You were.
I was really hurting. But in that aha moment, I wanted to stop like a mile and a half, 2 miles ago.
Right.
But I had to keep going because this person needed me to keep going. And it went beyond me. And I had to get out of the training. This is how my mind was working. I had to get out of the training and really put myself into that situation.
Yeah.
In order to make it real.
Yeah.
And to make it important. And when we were done, I felt accomplished.
Yeah.
I can save this person.
I
can go that extra mile.
You did something outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
That's when we feel accomplished. We do really feel accomplished inside of the thing that we always do. If you always run 2 miles, running 2 miles does not make you feel accomplished.
Yeah.
It's just what you do. And I've had people say things to me before like, "Oh, so inspiring, you did," and they name something. And I think to myself, I always do that.
I know.
Like,
yes.
Why is that inspiring? I mean, that's just me. That's just who I am.
Yeah.
When do I feel inspirational to someone? It's when I do something bigger than what I normally do. So for me, like riding across the United States on a bicycle, that was huge. And it does make me feel very accomplished. And I could inspire other people because it was ginormous. And especially for me. Now, for some people, my husband, accomplished cyclist, And even for him, he was very proud of himself for having accomplished it. But for him, it can't have been the same as me. I'm not athletic. This is not in my wheelhouse, you know? So it's when you go beyond and all of a sudden it's like, look at me, look at what I just was able to do, right? But you don't feel that when it's what you do easily or naturally.
So Teri, that's a good point. Now I want to bring this up because we talked about, hey, you wanted to go from Oregon to DC. You did this amazing trip. You went over the Rocky Mountains. Yeah. Everything went well. Some places you couldn't ride because of whatever was going on. But you had moments, I'm sure, and maybe I'm lying to myself. I believe that you had some moments of doubt.
Oh.
You had some moments where you...
Yes, I only had some. So day one, we live
there it is
on the coast of North Carolina, which is flat. And when I say flat, I mean live one of the highest points in the county at 35 feet above sea level. Okay. Oh, flat, wow. Very flat. And we did most of our practice riding here. Day one in Oregon, we're going over a mountain range. Okay. Mountains and flat are very different. And at the end of day one, I thought, bitten off more than we can chew. Right? Yeah. That was one time. I wrote a blog the whole way across the United States. So for anyone who wants to know the ins and outs of the whole thing, you can go to my website, which is my name, Teri M. Brown, and see the whole blog is there.
That's dope. Okay.
Time and time again in the blog, I stood and cried today. I would stand on the side of the road. We would be stopped for a break, and I would just start crying. I can't do this. Right? And then I would pull myself together and get back on the bike and do what had to be done because we can't stop there. Yeah. And then there was a day in Montana, and everything happens in Montana because Montana is so wide and takes you so long to get through Montana that I swear we were in Montana for most of the trip. But
wow.
The way it felt. We were in Montana, and we had a day that we had to go 70 miles. And our average was 42. So if that tells you anything, that's a very long day. And there was nothing in between where we had camped the night before and where we were going. There was nothing. So you had to do the 70 miles. Yeah. It was a hot day. The wind was blowing right at us. It made everything harder. There were mosquitoes that were so big and so vicious that I think they were eating the bug spray for breakfast. They just were landing everywhere. We had our rear tire had not one, not two, but 3 flats. Okay. So by the end of this day, I'm done. And I'm not just done for the day. I'm done. I'm done with the ride. There is no more ride. I'm done. And I said so in my blog. I think we're done. Yeah. And I had a friend reach out to me, and she provided one of my rules for the book. And she said, Teri, what you've done so far is absolutely amazing. And if you quit today, you have absolutely no reason to feel bad because you've already accomplished more than most people. I mean, you went over the Rocky Mountains on a bicycle and, you can feel really proud of yourself. However, I recommend that you don't quit on a bad day, which is one of my rules. She said, you'll always wonder if you had stuck with it, if you could have made it. So why don't you plan on taking it easy for a few days? See, maybe even not ride, maybe even just, take a break and then see what you think. And if you still decide that, nope, we're done riding, then you will have made the decision logically and you'll feel good about the decision. Either way, really proud of you. And that was the end of her little message to me. So I took that to heart. And the next day we had a wonderful day. It was a great day. Of course, we did make it the whole way. So I obviously followed that advice. But it's because when you are having a bad day, emotionally, you really are done. But logically, you can't even think straight. You're hungry, you're tired, you hurt, all of the things. All of the reasons why this will never work, why you can't be logical. But later, if you can step away from that badness and then look at it and say, okay, let's be honest. Is this really still meeting my needs? And if the answer is no, then quitting is fine. I don't tell people don't quit. Sometimes quitting is exactly what you should do. Like, I quit that marriage. It was no good. I needed to be out of that marriage, right? Staying in that wasn't right. Sometimes quitting the job that's sucking the life out of you is exactly what you should do. Sometimes quitting is exactly what you need to do, but don't do a bad day. Don't quit the day that your boss said something negative to you. Don't quit right after an argument with a spouse. Pull back, that you have a chance to think about it and say, does this still serve me? And if it's still serving you, then you can kind of put up with those bad moments. But if it's not getting you to where you want to be in life, then I think it's okay to quit. So no, I had them time and time again where it was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm so done with this.
That is a powerful rule. Give me the rule again, because I love it.
Never quit on a bad day.
That is power. Because a lot of times you can make bad decisions, regretful decisions. In hindsight, I wish I hadn't stopped, because I don't know what. Now I don't want to start all over again and try to do it, right? This is my time. This is my opportunity.
Right.
And now you've taken away your opportunity to achieve that, right?
And
I like
said,
that.
At that given point, didn't want to go on. If 3 days from then I had said, you know what, this still isn't really done, then you can say, okay, I tried it. It really wasn't good for me. And I could have still felt very proud of myself. We had gone over 1,000 miles, and I could have said, look, I rode over 1,000 miles on a tandem bicycle and went over the Rocky Mountains. That still would have been a nice thing to say.
Yeah.
But I'm now able to say I rode 3,102 miles all the way across the United States because I didn't stop on a bad day. I didn't quit on a bad day. You don't let a bad day derail everything. Because you're not in your right mind. Then you're just in emotional brain. And emotional brain never makes good decisions.
That's a whole nother topic.
It is.
That's a whole nother topic.
It is.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I had to learn that. I think a lot of people learn that.
Yeah.
Some people don't get a good chance to learn it, because you make bad decisions.
Yeah, and we're all going to make, and you can even make bad decisions when you've stopped to think about it. It's not that you can't make a bad decision, but you're more likely to make a bad decision if you do it while you're angry, or you do it while you're exhausted, or you do it while you're grieving, or you do it while whatever it is.
Yeah.
Whatever negative thing is going on, you need to be able to step back.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I like it. All right. That's awesome. That's a really, really, truly good message. But I'm going to ask you one more thing.
Super.
If our audience walks away with just one powerful insight, so now we're going to have to say two, because that was one in itself, but about imposter syndrome, what would it be? And then what action should they take today to shift the narrative in their own lives?
I think the one thing that they should maybe take away is they're not the only ones with it.
Yeah.
I think we feel very alone, and like we're the only one this is happening to. And walk away understanding you're not alone. There is probably not an honest person anywhere who hasn't felt it at least once. And the reason I say honest, some people won't tell you they've ever felt it because they're not willing to be, vulnerable like that.
Of course.
There isn't a person out there who's achieved anything at any time that hasn't at some point felt like an imposter. And so the fact that you're feeling it too just makes you human like the rest of us. And so it isn't anything to be afraid of, and it isn't anything to be angry at it's just part of the human existence, this feeling that we have. And then what should you do about that? Recognize it. When it happens, able to stop, say, whoa, what is going on right here? Oh, look, it's imposter syndrome. It's reared its ugly head. And then find a way to reframe it. So I was at an event relatively new to being an author, and I was with other authors who'd been authors a long time and had won awards. I hadn't won anything at this point. What am I doing here? Why did they invite me to be here? That's what I kept saying to myself. Okay, so let's reframe that. How can you look at that? So you say to yourself, oh, look, that's imposter syndrome. They invited me here because they liked my book. And no, I've not won an award yet, but I've only been writing for 6 months. I've only been out there for 6 months. And isn't it amazing that despite only having been writing for 6 months, that I've been invited to this event?
Yeah.
There, you've just reframed it.
Yeah.
So, reframe what your mind is saying to you. And then even if you just can't even find it, put it in a box, tell yourself you'll look at it later and go do the thing anyway. I mean, I don't know any other way around it. Reframe it and do it anyway. Those are the only two things I know to do. If someone else has better ideas, let me know, because, I still battle it all the time.
Yeah, let us know. Let us know.
Yeah.
Because it's a battle. It really is. It's a battle. Hey, so Teri, is there anything that I didn't ask you wish more people would talk about when it comes to imposter syndrome, or just anything that I haven't asked you? I know I didn't talk about your books. I really focused in on imposter syndrome.
Yeah, no, I mean, I am an author. I am a podcast host. If you want to know more about me, definitely head over to my website. You can find everything there. I think the only other thing I like to tell people is if you have a bucket list, throw it away. Go do it.
Why's that?
Do it.
I like that.
A bucket list is a horrible thing. It's just something that sits there and looks at you and says someday. So go to your bucket list, find the one thing that you want to do most, and figure out today something you can do to move toward that. Because you're not going to be able to necessarily achieve it today. On the day that I decided we were going to ride across the United States on a tandem bicycle, I couldn't have left that day. I didn't have the right equipment. I had no training. I still needed to lose some weight. I needed to a lot of things I needed to do, right? But on that day, it was no longer a bucket list item, right? So now it's a to-do item, and then you start doing things. I think that would be the thing that I really recommend to people is, look at that bucket list and throw it out. If you can't make it a to-do list, I don't want to die with 100 things that I wish I had done. Yeah. I'd rather die with 3 things I was working on.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, Teri, I'm throwing my list away and I'm getting out there tomorrow. No. Hey, and how can the listeners stay connected with you and support your work, especially with your upcoming projects like Little Lola and Her Big Dream? And let's talk. Matter of fact, before you answer that, give me the names of your books.
Yes, so I have 3 novels: Sunflowers Beneath the Snow, An Enemy Like Me, and Daughters of Green Mountain Gap. Then I have my memoir, which is 10 Little Rules for a Double-Butted Adventure. And then I have my children's book, which is Little Lola and Her Big Dream.
Okay. So are the novels, do they have a sort of similar central theme?
Oh, so I'm one of these all over the place people. All 3 historical fiction. I tell people all the time that I'm not a historical fiction author. I'm a character-driven fiction author. I love a good character.
Yeah.
So the one I'm currently writing is contemporary, and it's really rather humorous. So it's a very different thing completely. So if you like good characters, then you'll like my books.
I love
That's what I tell people.
I love
all the
characters.
Time. So yeah.
Okay, and where can the listeners, where can the watchers reach out and know a little bit more about you?
Easiest place is to go to my website, which is my name, TeriMBrown.com, and that's Teri with 1 R. Website, you can find all my social media icons. Just click and it'll take you to all the different ones I belong to. I have a newsletter that I would love for you to join. Nice. I send out 2 a month. One talks about different books that I've read, and one just talks about me and the things that are going on with my writing and my podcasting. Buy all my books there. You can read the blog of me going across the United States. And I even just have a contact page that you're welcome to just reach out and say, hey, Teri, I listened to what you had to say with Lee, and I would love to talk with you about insert whatever the topic is.
I love it. I love it. Teri, thank you so much. This episode reminded me, and hopefully it reminded us, that imposter syndrome is not a one-size-fits-all struggle. And for many, it's the inner critic we must confront to truly thrive. I just want to thank Teri once again for sharing the powerful lessons that you learned along your journey, especially over 3,000, and you got the number down.
102.
102 miles across the country, or over the Rocky Mountains, and through the days of crying and struggling, you persevered, right? Because you had that definition of what success looked like. You didn't quit on the bad days. You made your decision on rational days. And in doing that, you were able to achieve that. And that's pretty awesome. And I too aspire to be an author. No, I'm just playing. No, but I have a book. No, but I do have a book and I'm working on it. And it's sort of it's like what you said, the 10 things, but it's things that I learned in the army,
Yeah.
right? And it's things that I believe that one should ask themselves to get to know themselves and how to be able to step out that box and achieve things you didn't believe that you could, right? But first you got to know who you are.
Right.
You got to know things about you and where you want to go. So that's what mine. So I'll share that with you when it comes out. But you've really given me a lot of inspiration just listening and talking to you. I've been trying to figure out how to wrap this book up, and I need to just do it. I just need to wrap it up. It's got all the substance. It's got the stuff there. Stop self-doubting and persevere. So one, thank you for your motivation and your inspiration.
Thank you.
And then for the listeners, be sure to subscribe, share this episode, and keep leaning into your own hindsight moments. Get out of that box. Get out there and get rid of that bucket list. Let's go do something. Let's go achieve. Let's go. All right. Thank you all. And until next time, I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for joining me here on Hindsight the Podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I did. And while I have you here, why don't you take your mouse, go over and click on that subscribe button. No, not right there. Over to the right. No, down, right there. Boom. Thank you. Now, thank you for subscribing to Hindsight the Podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones.